Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1680B, and today's date is October 3rd, 2018, and the title of the episode is Sting Operation Active, the Coverup Comms Active. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are trying everything they can possibly think of to keep Kavanaugh from being confirmed. If you noticed, their narrative has now turned to, oh, Kavanaugh lied while he was testifying in front of Congress. And they moved away from Ford and what happened there to perjury because they know they don't have any case. We're going to get into all about what happened with Kavanaugh, the new evidence that is now coming out right now, and what Q has been saying and how Q has been breaking it all down, because it's starting to make sense and there's a bigger, better, clear picture now of what is really going on and who set this up. But first, I want to go back to post 2297. This was September 29th, where Twitter has been given the green light to blanket censor all content deemed to threaten their survival. Google, Facebook will follow, most likely YouTube. This was the post that Q put up. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because Trump now is going to be sitting down with the tech giants. And those tech giants are going to meet with him, and they're going to be talking about what they've been doing. And we'll have to see how this turns out. But we can see that a summit is being prepared between Google and many others to talk about what is happening. And we know that Twitter, Google, and the rest, they've been banning a lot of different accounts. YouTube is banning channels, and they're continually doing this. And once again, this is all about the intelligence agencies keeping control, the deep state trying to censor everyone so there's only one voice, and that is their voice. Now, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, he is making the rounds today. He's going to be heading out to North Korea to set up the next summit, so he's meeting with the leaders in North Korea. He also was responding in a press conference to many different questions about Iran, because today the United Nations, the top court, ordered the U.S. to lift sanctions on humanitarian goods to Iran. So Pompeo said that the United States is now terminating the 1955 treaty with Iran. And he said this decision is 39 years overdue. Now, this was the 1955 Friendship Treaty, or it's also known as the Treaty of Amity. And this was established before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, which brought the Ayatollahs to power. So what happened back in 1954? Well, we need to remember who was involved, what was happening. And this was a 1954 CIA's operation known as Ajax, which overthrew the legitimately elected government of Iran. And in 1954, it brought in the Shah to power. And then in 1979, they had a revolution because they didn't want the puppet government that the CIA brought in. So this deal was made by the deep state after they had regime change in Iran. So what did Pompeo do? Got rid of the treaty the deep state created with Iran. So everything that the deep state, the intelligent operatives have done in the past is now being undone one step at a time. And this will put pressure on Iran, those deep state operatives within Iran, to come to the table and negotiate a new deal. We see Israel is out there saying that they are going to bomb Syria no matter what. They don't care if there's an S-300 anti-aircraft missile system set up and electronic systems set up. They're going to fly the F-35 now into Syria and bomb Syria. Now, they know that the S-300 systems and the electronic systems that Russia has set up, that would down the planes. They know this. Maybe one or two will get through, but on the way out, they'll probably be brought down after that. And Israel said, well, maybe we should be talking to Russia. Maybe we should have a hotline, and maybe we should use this. and maybe we should return to normal operation. They're understanding that their days of just flying planes into Syria and bombing wherever they want, those days are over. This is a sovereign nation. It had always been a sovereign nation, but the nation right now is controlled by Syria and Russia. It's not controlled by the deep state anymore. It's not controlled by the intelligence organizations, and Israel just can't go in and bomb wherever they want. Actually, the coalition forces, they're going to have to leave this area. This is why Mattis is bringing in more diplomats, because the fight with the Islamic State is almost said and done. And again, there's no reason for the coalition forces to be in a sovereign nation. Once Russia and Syria control the entire country, there's no explanation they can use to say we need to be in there. Because if that is the case, the rest of the world would be able to do this with any country. Can you imagine if China or Russia or any other country put troops into the U.S. and said, listen, we're allowed to be here. We're fighting different terrorists. We don't know where they are, but we're fighting them, and we're allowed to be in your country. No, that would be considered an invasion. And that's what is happening out in Syria. The coalition forces invaded Syria because really what they thought was, going back during Obama's period of time, that they were going to have regime change, and they wanted the troops on the ground. Everything is happening in reverse now, and it's not working out. The plan is dead. Assad right now has said that Syria has reached major understanding with Arab states, and it looks like they're cooperating, and it seems like different Arab states now are recognizing that Syria is going to be there. Those days of going after Syria, putting operatives inside of Syria, it is not working anymore. Those days are gone. Now we're entering a whole new realm, and this is the realm of peace. And all these Middle Eastern countries, they need to start falling in line because, again, they don't have the deep state. They don't have anything to protect them anymore. And actually, what's very interesting is Trump made a tweet and said the following to the Saudi king. We protect the countries of the Middle East. They would not be safe for very long without us, and yet they continue to push for higher and higher oil prices. We will remember the OPEC monopoly must get prices down now. What he's saying is when the petrodollar was formed, the deep state, the intelligence organizations made deals with all the Middle Eastern countries. You will only sell the oil using the dollar, and we will protect you. Trump is putting them on notice because without the U.S. protecting them, they're done for. And again, we can see that these Middle Eastern countries, they're going to be in trouble because the petrodollar system is ending. The U.S. will no longer need to protect them. Actually, Trump took this a step further, saying that maybe they should start paying the United States to protect them. Now, this is very interesting because we're getting to the point now, once the system starts to break down and the United States comes off the petrodollar, there's no reason for the forces to be out in the Middle East. There's no reason for it at all. That whole deal that was set up back in 1971, actually prior to that, but it went into effect in 1971. That whole deal is completely gone. So let's get into Q's posts. And we see that Q dropped some bread here. This is post 2314. And Q put up a Reddit premium picture. And under it says symbolism will be their downfall. When you look at the picture, it's a very odd picture. But if you look up at the top area, there's an arrow, there's an eye, and basically it's the all-seeing eye of providence at the top of the arrow. And again, this is an occult logo. Post 2315, Q put up a meme and it says, your vote counts. We will do our job to protect the vote. Will you do yours? Fight, 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 Q. Below it, it says, are you registered to vote on November 6th? These people are sick. Gave a link to the New York Post. And this is about the ricin that was delivered to the Pentagon Post Office that was supposed to be heading towards Mattis and Trump and the rest. And we see right now that they stopped it before this happened. But we did mention this yesterday, that this was a message to the Trump administration to stop what they're doing or else. And you can see right now, this was an inside job. This is most likely those individuals that Trump and the Patriots are going after. When the DECLAS happens, when all the indictments are revealed, when we have the military trials, these are the individuals. Post 2316 put up another meme. Save America. Vote Republican. And that's self-explanatory there. Post 2317. Q put up a number, 53 to 47. Q. Now, most likely what this means is Justice Kavanaugh to be confirmed 53 to 47. Post 2318. Q put up a link to Twitter, a tweet by Kevin Shipp, and another link to Fox News. Now, the first one from Kevin Shipp is Ford is not just a liar, she is a puppet. As a former CIA polygraph examiner with a master's level, Department of Defense CIA degree in forensics psychophysiology, I can tell you with certainty she has been coached to lie. Also, note her breathing during the questions. And below that was the Fox News article, which says, Christine Blasey Ford's ex-boyfriend told Senate Judiciary he witnessed her coach a friend on polygraphs. Now, before I get to this article and everything below this, I wanted to read more of what Q says. So Q went on to say, Ford herself coached by the CIA. Farm, all caps. Pre-family invite with internship assignment. Stanford. CIA assisted sex assault sleepers who are targeted based on trusted family backgrounds, geopolitical location relative to families of power, influence, ability to harvest, control, etc. Fantasy or reality. Normal to self-induced, in brackets bold, in stages to exhibit past trauma level events with friendly therapy sessions notated as undefined. Past trauma exerted to identify mind with feeling with target insertion. Polygraph administered by former FBI agent. Who was that agent? Jeremiah Hanifin. Background, he was a retired FBI agent. Mueller error. Looks like he was under Mueller. How many times was the test administered before results satisfactory? Many times. Were questions modified to create positive results? Actually, there was only 2 questions asked. Goal. Per past statistical success rates, apply enough false, intensive private and public pressure for nominee to resign. Mission failed. Target provided with info to prep counter. The more you know. So it looks like Kavanaugh was provided some information and he was able to counter this. And it looks like they practiced over and over and over to make sure that they got the positive results they wanted. And what they're doing right now is to continually put pressure on the nominee to resign, saying that he's lying. If you notice, they're coming off the idea that something happened with Ford and they're moving towards he lied. And they're continually pushing this over and over and over. Now, the link that Q put up with Fox News is as follows. An ex-boyfriend of Brett Kavanaugh, accuser Christine Blasey Ford, told Senate investigators he witnessed her coach a friend on how to take a polygraph, contradicting her sworn testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee last week. In a sworn statement provided to the Senate Judiciary Committee, a man who claims to be an ex-boyfriend of Christine Blasey Ford says that he personally witnessed this. The troubling allegations about Ford's polygraph history and potentially false testimony were revealed Tuesday in a letter from Senator Chuck Grassley, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, to attorneys for Ford. Ford and her attorneys have thus far refused to provide all polygraph-related documents and media to the Senate for review. The full details of Dr. Ford's polygraph are particularly important because the Senate Judiciary Committee has received a sworn statement from a longtime boyfriend of Dr. Ford, stating that he personally witnessed Dr. Ford coaching a friend on polygraph examinations. When asked under oath in the hearing whether she's ever given any tips or advice to someone who was planning On taking a polygraph, Dr. Ford replied, "Never." This statement raises specific concerns about the reliability of the polygraph examination results. The Senate, therefore, needs this information. So Grassley shot off a letter to Miss Katz, Miss Banks, Mr. Abood, and Mr. Bromwich. And Grassley wrote, "I write to renew my request for material evidence relevant to allegations of sexual assault made by your client, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, against Judge Brett Kavanaugh. During the hearing last week, Senator Kamala Harris argued that it was only fair for senators on the committee to see the evidence that the witness was being asked to address. The same principle applies to this request. Your continued withholding of material evidence despite multiple requests is unacceptable, as the Senate exercises its constitutional responsibility of advice and consent for a judicial nomination. I urge you to comply with my request. First, I renew my request for those notes from therapy sessions in which Dr. Ford discussed the alleged assault by Judge Kavanaugh. The Washington Post reported that some notes were provided to the Post, and Dr. Ford's testimony indicated that these notes were highly relevant to her allegations. These notes have been repeatedly cited as corroboration, even while written 30 years after the alleged event, and in apparent contradiction with testimony and other public statements regarding several key details of the allegations, including when the alleged attack occurred, how many individuals were present in the bedroom in which the attack was alleged to have occurred, and how many individuals attended the party. Your previous response to this request, that these records contain private, highly sensitive information, that is not necessary for the committee to assess the credibility of Dr. Ford's testimony, is not justified. Based on the fact that this material has been presented as a key component supporting allegations made by your client, including the presentation made to the Washington Post. Second, I renew my request for copies of all audio and video recordings produced during the course of Mr. Hanifin's polygraph examinations of Dr. Ford, as well as all polygraph charts and other data that Mr. Hanifin relied on in preparing his report. I made these requests both before and during the hearing, but I have yet to receive them. Dr. Ford cited the results of this polygraph examination to support her allegations. It's unfair to rely on the results of a polygraph examination while withholding the material necessary to assess the accuracy of the results. So it went on about, we need all this information. Why don't you get it to me? And it looks like they have not complied at all. Now, the conservative treehouse did some digging and uncovered certain information here, which really shines a light on what is going on here. And here is the letter from the ex-boyfriend. He wrote, "I first met Christine, now Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, in 1989 or 1990 in California. From 1990 to 91, I was just friends with Ford. From approximately 92 to 98, I was in a relationship with Dr. Ford, and I found her truthful and maintained no animus towards her. During our time, Dr. Ford never brought up anything regarding the experience as a victim of sexual assault, harassment, or misconduct. Dr. Ford never mentioned Brett Kavanaugh. During some of the time we were dating, Dr. Ford lived with Monica L. McLean, who I understand to be her lifelong best friend. During that time, it was my understanding that McLean was interviewing for jobs with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. I witnessed Dr. Ford help McLean prepare for a potential polygraph exam. Dr. Ford explained in detail what to expect, how polygraphs worked, and helped McLean become familiar and less nervous about the exam. Dr. Ford was able to help because of her background in psychology." Now, let's look at this person, Monica McLean. And Conservative Treehouse goes into who this individual is. Now, Monica McLean was also one of the signatories of another letter from the Holton Arms class of 1984, bolstering the credibility of Miss Blasey Ford. So let's look into Miss Ford's lifelong friend from school. Miss Monica Lee McLean, date of birth 3/15/66, reveals in almost guaranteed likelihood the polygraph assistance had something to do with her career path Miss McLean would take. Monica McLean was admitted to the California bar in 1992 The same year, Ms. Ford's boyfriend stated he began a 6-year relationship with her best friend. The address for the current inactive California law license is now listed as Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Now, remember this, it becomes more relevant later. According to her LinkedIn background, Ms. Monica Lee McLean was a 24-year-old employee of the Department of Justice and FBI from 1992 to 2016. And according to public records, Ms. McLean worked in both Los Angeles, California, and New York. In 2000, Los Angeles FBI declaration, Ms. McLean describes herself as a special agent of the FBI Associate Division Counsel in Los Angeles Division Legal Unit. Sometime between 2000 and 2003, McLean transferred to the Southern District of New York, FBI New York field office, where she shows up on various reports, including media reports, as a spokesperson for the FBI. McLean and Dr. Ford are lifelong friends. Obviously, they have known each other since their high school days at Holton Arms, and both lived together as roommates in California after college. Their close friendship is cited by Ms. Ford's former boyfriend of 6 years. Ms. Monica McLean retired from the FBI in 2016, apparently right after the presidential election. Her current residence is listed as Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which aligns with the public records. Now, where did Ms. Blasey Ford testify she was located at the time she wrote the letter to Dianne Feinstein, accusing Judge Brett Kavanaugh? Well, let's look at the transcript. Mitchell. This is Rachel Mitchell. The second is the letter that you wrote to Senator Feinstein dated July 30th of this year. Mitchell says again, did you write the letter yourself? Ford said, I did. Mitchell, and I, since it's dated July 30th, did you write it on that date? Ford, I believe so. It sounds right. I was in Rehoboth, Delaware at the time. I could look into my calendar and try to figure that out, it seemed. Mitchell, was it written on or about that date? Ford, yes, I traveled. I think the 26th of July to Rehoboth, Delaware, so that makes sense because I wrote it from there. Mitchell, is the letter accurate? Ford, I'll take a minute to read it. So we have Dr. Ford in Rehoboth, Delaware on the 26th of July. We've got her lifelong BFF, Monica McLean, who worked as an attorney and POI in the Department of Justice, FBI in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Apparently, at the same time she wrote the letter to Senator Dianne Feinstein. Dr. Ford and Ms. McLean, the BFF she coached on lie detector tests, together for the 4 days leading up to the actual writing of the letter, July 26th to July 30th. It would appear that Dr. Ford was with McLean, the retired FBI agent and former New York field office spokesperson, at the time she wrote the letter to Feinstein. That would certainly begin to explain quite a bit about who exactly was handling Ms. Ford and how there would be an intentional effort from a subject matter expert on how to best position the attack against Brett Kavanaugh. Who better to help scrub the internet history and know what process and people to enlist in such a preparatory work than a retired lawyer who worked deeply inside the FBI? Not only did McLean possess a particular set of skills to assist Ms. Ford, but McLean would also have a network of Department of Justice and FBI resources to assist in the endeavor. A former friendly FBI agent to do the polygraph, a network of politically motivated allies. Does the appearance of FBI insider and Deputy FBI Director to Andrew McCabe, Michael Bromwich, begin to make more sense? Do the loud and overwhelming requests by political allies for FBI intervention take on a different meaning or make more sense now? Standing back and taking a look at the big picture, could it be that Ms. McLean and her team of ideological compatriots within the Department of Justice and FBI who have massive access to grind against the current Trump administration are behind this entire endeavor? Consider all the embattled, angry institutional officials, former and current, and considering the recently fired Department of Justice and FBI officials, and considering the officials currently under investigation, and considering the declassification requests which will likely lead to the exposure of even more corruption, Could it be that these elements wanted to do something, anything to get back at the executive branch and possibly change the tide? So if Monica Lee McLean and her allies wanted to strike, she couldn't be the visible face of the confrontation because she was retired FBI. It would be too obvious. She would need a patsy, a friend who could deploy the hit on their behalf. It would need to be someone she could shape, easily manage, and guide. Someone who could be trusted and at the same time would be trusting of them. It is quite likely Miss McLean recruited her lifelong best friend, Dr. Blasey Ford. And you can see that McLean, it's funny, she's with Avenatti. So that's right there kind of odd. So it looks like McLean and others had something to do with this. And this is why when you go back to the Q post, Q is talking about conditioning. Q is talking about who are the people involved. And you can see the group of people, they had access, they had the ability, they had the means to do all of this. And it's starting to get clearer and clearer as time goes on. And I believe this is why the deep state has dropped that and has gone to perjury. And Kavanaugh is an angry man. And they're moving away from the sexual assault narrative because they know they're going to be found out. Post 2319, Q put up the looks like a phone. It says presidential alert. Today, everyone should have received at 2:18, and that's Eastern Standard Time, the presidential alert. And Q put up two links here. One of a picture of a phone that says presidential alert. And the alert is, this is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. No action is needed. Put up a Twitter link, and the Twitter link says the following. U.S. Attorney Jeff Sessions thanking Utah police officers for their efforts in reducing violent crime in Utah. Under this, it says, what a wonderful day. Q. Now, first, when you look at the presidential alert, someone counted the number of words. It's 17. And we know that Q continually references the number 17. Trump references the number 17. Q is the 17th letter in the alphabet. Very interesting. Post 2320, Q wrote, Sessions meeting Huber the same day as POTUS alert. Sessions meeting Huber the day prior to the subpoena. Yesterday, we mentioned the subpoena where Jeff Sessions is subpoenaed to appear in front of the House, where they need to talk about the declassification. They want the information. Q went on to say, what must be understood prior to? Think grand jury information. What are the odds of that? Well, it looks like the odds are pretty darn good, and it looks like they're preparing everything to move forward. Now, I wanted to mention something that @5strat put together, and it looks like everything that's going on with Kavanaugh might be a sting operation on top of all of this. And the reason why I say this is because, remember, Q has told us that Kavanaugh knew all of this information. They knew it was a hit job. Remember, Q says they have it all, they know all. They knew what was going on. They knew what they were preparing. So they were preparing to counter all of this. So when you think about Kavanaugh, they might have used him as bait to take down Feinstein and friends like Booker, Harris, and the rest. Think about it. If they had to unravel all the corruption for all these individuals on the Judiciary Committee at one time, there'd be a mass lawsuit all over the place. There'd be one in Newark, San Francisco, and Illinois, you name it, it would be all over the place. So instead, since they were going to use this hit against Kavanaugh, use him as bait to catch these individuals in this false allegation against Kavanaugh. And this is exactly what was done. So what they did was created a sting that takes them all down at once but keeps their former corruption hidden so the nation doesn't go into double shock. One at the federal level and one at their local levels of previous service. So who is Judge Kavanaugh? He was a lawyer on the Ken Starr impeachment team who wrote the questions that forced Bill Clinton to admit to lying to the American people and caused his impeachment and the ultimate downfall of the Clinton dynasty. So why pick Judge Kavanaugh? Because they knew it would trigger Hillary. Make no mistake, Hillary, not Schumer, ran the Democrat side of the Senate Judiciary hearing of Judge Kavanaugh. She wanted to make him pay for the impeachment, torture him the way she psychologically thought he tortured her, destroy his confirmation, destroy his reputation, and in doing so, called in markers including Jeff Flake and many others. But Trump and the Patriots, they were playing 4D chess, and they outsmarted all these individuals because they knew everything. And you can see that everything that they tried to do is completely falling apart. And the only thing they have left is they're grasping at straws about Kavanaugh lied. But when they bring it back to show that Dr. Ford lied about all of this and it really didn't happen in the way she said it happened, and there were additional players in this, it all completely falls apart. And that's where this is headed. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.